Yeah, so pretty much from our last recording, pretty much what was your experience when you came across Aku? Like what was his impact for real when he stepped into the sty and started running into you guys?
But to be honest with you, like a lot of people knew about Aku, but like I said, like Iggy was the one that introduced me to Aku. You know what I'm saying? Like, he told me that he was like, he was one of his teachers, and basically, like, you know what I'm saying, he get busy with the, with with we in tune thing. But we already had, before our crew even came in the picture, like, we already had our structure going on. Like from when I brought, because after the battle with Black and us, like, Brandon and Blackie, I brought them over to the stop. So they started to hang on Hancock Street. So, that's how the connection with Ski and, other people cross paths. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the headquarters, a lot of people was like from Hancock Street, the Fat Boy House. But mainly a lot of people, like, we was just like Hancock Street was just the headquarters of everything of the dancer structure.
Okay.
So Pova basically, on his upcoming, he was over there trying to still find himself. Like, so he was basically like telling me about Icky. So I already kind of knew Icky in the flesh. So when he brought it to my attention, that's how the connection got with, me going up there seeing Icky. So maybe like the second time that I popped up to the record shop, Icky brought Aku in the picture as in it, like he was just telling me about him. Like, yo, I got this dude, he from Trinidad, he get busy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, he like, yo, we should start a group called First Class. So he was like, yo, I want you and Gordon to be down. So I'm sitting there, so I'm, I was like, like I said, Icky my dog. So I'm like, yo, like, whatever, for the most part, like I said, like, I see you step your style up. So at that time, Icky, he's getting his name up now. So it's like I'm starting to pop up to the record shop. So like the record shop started to become like a regular spot for us to pop up. So we did a lot of labbing up in there. Like I popped up there numerous times. Me and Icky used to freestyle dance all day in front of the record shop. We used to be out there from no bullshit. We'd be out that bitch from like 5 to like 9 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? Just out there, just busting, going to pull up. Then, like I said, at that time, like I'm building a friendship with Darrell. So now Darrell's starting to pull up. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, like I said, it was other no name dancers that was popping out that was getting crazy. So that was that was the headquarter niggas getting their head chopped off. Pova was popping out. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, is that was the headquarters that people was getting their head chopped off. But a lot of cats was still on curfew. They couldn't be out too long, so a lot of people wasn't outside. But for the most part, yeah, that's how Icky and myself started to, then when I saw Aku, I saw him in front of the store on like the middle Albany. I saw him, that's my dude. So when I met Aku, he was cool, laid back. He had this like, just laid back. He ain't really talk too much. You definitely could tell he was from the islands. Um, he was just cool, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so Icky told him to, hit a little 1-2. So, like I said, at that time, it was the feet movement was coming up. So it's like I was already in tune with the feet movement. So, he had his little glide 1-2 1-2. He had a strong, like a strong feet control. So it was dope. And he had upper body. So, like I said, shout out to Aku too, man. But, it ain't stopped or it wasn't like a major impact to what other people had going on, but as in for like the new kid on the block and just having that new impact, shit, why not? Like, it made the style stronger. Like, you know, he ain't go through the training and all that with other dudes. And don't get me wrong, like he had like strong techniques and he brought a lot to the table as in who he was, you know what I'm saying? So, he had his own lane.
Right. Were you at any of the events outside of like the record shop, like any block parties that he participated in? Because from what I recall, in a lot of statements that he's made, especially when he stepped into this Bedford Stuyvesant area, the way he got to necessarily, I guess, run into a lot of you guys and perform before y'all for him to have an impact of some sort was because of block parties. And we know Bed-Stuy is very much known for their block parties. So were you there for any of those events to see beyond what you saw in front of the record shop?
Uh, from my, like I said, like you saying that he put a you said he danced at block parties.
That's what he said. If I'm
Okay.
correct, I'll make sure to go get the clip and put it in here so
No,
everybody
no,
knows
no, no. It's not.
I'm
Nah,
not
we not.
even on no. I'm just
Nah.
making sure because you a Bed-Stuy native
Right.
in the midst
Nah. He
of
not.
everything that came from
It's not to
Bed-Stuy.
be. It's not that. It's not. Not. It's not. It's not that. It's basically not to be messy or nothing like that.
Oh no, I'm
To be
not here to
honest,
be.
no,
That's
no.
not
I
the
know. I
case. It's
know.
just that
I got
again,
you.
a lot of y'all from the Bed-Stuy area, Crown Heights, Franklin, a lot of y'all cross paths, especially
Mhm.
in the Bed-Stuy area.
Right.
So with a person like you who's necessarily, you know, very much revered as a dancer in your area, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's
Right.
like, hold on. Oh, it's like saying, yo, there's a block party over here, and it's like Mike should know, Gordon should know,
Right.
this person should know. So it's like, oh, when this took place, it's like, you know, it's like that's what I'm asking. Like, were you there to see any of that outside of the record shop?
Yeah, I was there. I'm the one that like I put this together. Like, you know what I'm saying? That old dancers pop out when they pop out. But like I said, when I Cool came in the picture, it wasn't like all eyes was just on him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody just faced like towards him or whatever the case may be. Like people knew of him, but it wasn't like he was known all the way around the star. No, he
Mm,
wasn't known all the way around the star. But for the most part, like he had a good impact of just the people within the 4 to 5 block radius, 6 block radius, if you want to say.
okay,
And that comes from, but see, at that time, Icky was on the rise too. So it's like by them being, partners, or you want to say brush up or whatever you want to call it, they both was two people still coming up in the style, still being around dancing. So they put, well, I could say more of Icky was like more standing out because like he started to move around a little bit, not as much,
okay.
but enough. Like especially like dealing with Fulton Street, like you like a lot of people they be like, okay, you knew me here, but I don't know you over there. So it's like one of those like, Iggy had a big impact like coming through, from I could say from Gates Avenue back. So it's like, with the battle between him and Darrell, that was like some type of image that was something like a build up later on as in the come up. Like he already knew about Gordon and myself as in from the start.
Right.
So it's like he took on the honor, like fuck it. He from the start, he know Darrell and them is from Crown Heights. So fuck it, let me get a piece of this and go to war with y'all, basically type shit. That's how I took it.
Mm,
So like I cool with just the icing on the cake. Like he just come with it type shit. Like he wasn't
copy.
really out there trying to, yeah, he wasn't out there like, I cool. He wasn't doing that. He was humble, but it was like people still was trying to figure him out and know who he was. But for the people that know him, they knew him. So
Mm,
same thing with Icky. It's just that Icky kind of like stood out a little bit more because he was more a little bit outside than Aku.
right.
So, but the people like, but what put the big impact that people really kind of knew of Icky and Aku is the battle that I set up for them, but with him and Ski. You know what I'm saying? So it's like while I was going back and forth dealing with Ski and them over there, fucking with them on the dancing tip, I'm over there already with Icky and Aku. So it was like I used to go back like, yo, you know that nigga Darrell say he'll murder you. So Icky be like, well, watch when I see you. So word, I'm playing great. I'm putting salt on the wound. So I'm already pumping them up. So that's what got this hot. You feel me? Like on top, I already got Brandon, Blackie and Brandino. Those like Blackie, Brandino, and Blackie. That was that we the four amigos there. So I got Blackie, Brandino, Gordon over here. I got Icky over here, but Icky's attached to Aku. Then I'm over there fucking with Darrell. You know what I'm saying? Then on top of that, like, like I said, Princeton, like that's my dog. Like, but we still going back and forth. Like we still, that's what made it more fun because it's like, and even when we clash, used to ask me, like, yo, like, you dance like Darrell and them dudes from Franklin. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, well, you. You be on Franklin too. I saw, you know what I mean? But it was just dope that, you know what I'm saying, it just all connect the way it did, you know what I'm saying? So, even with Ski, like I said, like me and Ski, me, Ski, Darrell, we all rolling together. So it's like it was just a back and forth thing. That's what made Ski come to the star even more. And he basically was in the star. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them cats from Crown Heights, they more like came into the star fucking with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when I started the honeycomb, like I was telling you. Um, Early on in my early teenager years, like I said, like I'm 12, 13 years old going into Albany Manor, Hancock Manor, you know what I'm saying, Rollins, Colors, like these clubs, all this is Bed-Stuy clubs.
Mm.
Rollins was crazy, you know what I'm saying, Colors was crazy, that was on Atlantic Avenue. The Hut, come on man, that was crazy. The Gorilla, you know what I'm saying, like the Callaloo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the fitness center on Nostrand, on Macon. Like, these are places you had to be. A lot of people wasn't outside. A lot of people can't explain and talk about these clubs. You know what I'm
Copy.
saying? I'm running around in these shits 14, 15. Once I say the gorilla, niggas were like, the gorilla, yeah. The hut, like, nobody, like, yeah, you hear them, they always dancing. Yeah, where? Where you, yeah, you ain't in here. I'm
So,
in there. You had to pay $20 to get in these joints. Like, you know what I mean? We up in these kids dealing with Web International and all that. My peoples and all that go with Web International. These was big sets in the style. From the style all the way to Crown Heights to Flatbush. Tech Nine, Renaissance. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Stone Love was a major thing then. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like these major DJ sets was a big thing. So when they were saying Suspect Crew and all that, not to mention them, but big shout outs to them, they already was in tune with big sets. So it's like even on our side coming from the start, we was already in tune too. It's just that we had our own big platform over here, but not like how it was over there. But it just is dope how the connection and just having that connection with people that had those big sounds. It helps the culture. It was just dope. 90s era was just crazy, like especially with the Bruck up instruction. You know, a lot of
well,
people ain't yeah, bro.
um, based on my research and even listening to you, it didn't seem as if first class took off.
First class was like that was something that they was just trying to put together.
So it never took off. But it's something that necessarily, I guess, they held on to.
But to be honest with you, bro, like I'm gonna clean this up too, bro. Like first class, even though they have a big group, first class could be a two partner group.
I mean, again, I'm not against it. All I'm saying is it's like one of those things where it's like the way, like when you hear a lot of individuals, let's say who's a part of that club, explain it. They explain it as if like this was a big thing in the style, like first class, and it's like, but then by the time you speak to other like Bed-Stuy natives like yourself, is like yeah, it was mentioned, but it's not like yo, it was a big thing. Like everybody, like the people who are a part of it is running around first class, first class, first class versus, and the reason why I say that is because when you look outside, when the other groups that are going on, it's like this is not a group that when people think of Bed-Stuy, it's like this is the first thing that come up to their mind. It's to the point where as we move forward more forward in the interview, it's like Bed-Stuy veterans is probably the most iconic group to come out of the style.
But it connects to first class though.
No, I get it, but this is what I'm saying. But this is a situation where now like people really this faction that would stem from a first class really made their situation a household name.
But I ain't even gonna front though. It could still be stamped. Why? Because if you really want to say first class, it you can't, even though you said it ain't take off, but the people that was in the group as leaderships, as in Pova and Albert, I tilt my hat to them. They just took it among they self to like carry the ship and just turned it. It's like you turn Burger King into White Castle. You just change the franchise name and that's what it is. So basically that's what it is. Like, all right, so even if Icky and Aku, they came out with it and it didn't succeed the way it is, but they still had two members that were still attached to the group. So even though they
Copy.
had to figure it, you see what I'm saying? They had to figure it out to make a real stamp for it. So even while you look at it, yeah, you're right. It ain't really pick up, but they still had members that was in the group. Now, so for example, now if Pova and Albert wasn't in the group, then we could have this conversation like, but in a way, nah, we gonna we gonna shape it up a little. We gonna be fair tonight. We gonna be fair on this one. Kind of not, because Albert and Pova saved the situation.
Which,
They
all
just
right.
switched
So
it to
now, so
BSB
now
and
my
added,
question.
they just added it on as like, for example, so even if Icky and Aku, they recruited other dancers, or they couldn't, they didn't get the chance to do that, but they had Pova and them on the side. Pova and them, they got a chance to stand out and sprout and get other dancers involved to make it to what they wanted to be. You know, now the
Which is
thing
which
is,
is which is dope
yeah,
because
yeah.
because my question to you is based on your own leadership of self, you grabbed up certain people that would necessarily help shape
Oh,
PSV.
Lord of mercy.
You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So we're
yeah,
so it's
yeah, of course.
so it's so correct me if I'm wrong. Again, as a man, I stand corrected.
Mm.
In your leadership, you grabbed Blackie and you grabbed Brandino.
Ski, Darrell,
No, 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 no. Hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying. Those other two names you named are leaders in themselves. Blackie and Brandino will be necessarily a part of a new clique that's being formed based off y'all leadership. So
right.
hear what
But
I'm
they
saying.
not
So
be
it's again, you're your own leader and your partner at the time, but y'all have no group name unless there is one. You and Gordon is a group, a two-man,
right.
right?
That's right. Yep.
Ski is his own leader in his own right that would necessarily align himself with two other major houses, which is One Love and Suspense, but he himself still is a one-man army.
Right. He was over there with us though. He was with us. Before he got over there with One Love, he was with us first. He got with One Love after we all got out the picture. He was with us at first.
Okay,
Ski, yeah, Ski was running around with us. It was me, Ski, Darrell, shit. Me, Ski, Darrell, Blackie, Brandon, Gordon. Where you want to go? Fat Ant, Book. Like, but see, at that time, Fat Ant and Book came. See,
but watch this. Watch this.
Brandon
The
added
reason why
Fat
I
Ant.
named
Yeah,
those, my thing
yeah.
is to really section out by
Right.
tier, like
Okay, okay.
who's the elder and then who was the next generation to come and set the tone. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm
Mhm.
making sure people understand that it's like you and another set of people ain't really on the same level in regards to the work that was put in.
Right,
So
right,
when I speak of people like you or a ski, it's like let's say in the area of Bed-Stuy, like y'all really are like a foundation that
okay.
people were built upon.
Right, 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 right,
So when I sit here and I say, yo, all right, you grabbed up Blackie and Brandino, you will be considered their elder.
I don't look at like we all even though, man. I don't never step toe. See, that's one thing about
No,
me that
I mean you can keep it
I
like that. It's just
yeah,
again,
I ain't the type that I
even when
don't
you
I
explain the story to me, I'm listening.
yeah.
You are their elder.
Yeah, but the
As
funny
far as dance is
it's
concerned, I'm
cool.
not talking about your friendship, no nothing. As far as dance is concerned, that's like saying
I just took
you.
them from Darrell. Because those are Darrell people. I just
But
snatched them
but
up
even
and just took them
still,
underneath.
even still, they came under your tutelage.
To a degree, but like I said, everybody see one thing. They got their own leverage though. When they came with me, I put my men as their own leverage. I can never see. That's one thing I can never do. To know, I'm just that real. Like I never say, yo. Even from then, like if like in my group or the people that I'm with, I never. I don't know. I never say, yo, I'm better than you, or I never could feel like that. So that's what made me. If and it worked out good. Like the way I worked it out, my men came crazy. And not for nothing, Black already came crazy strong. It's just that, he just needed that kick. So I already came with that energy. So once that was there, that's what made it, that's what made us crazy. Like when you put see, your ass is great. When you put me in that black motherfucker, you done. Like all this shit with niggas, and people know that. Like with me and Blackie, see, me and Gore, we get crazy, but when me and Blackie started the lab, it just shit just started to get dark. Like we don't got time to play. We taking your fucking head off. Like one round, you're done. Like you say, our niggas do 3 rounds, 2 rounds. Nah, we ain't doing none of that. We cleaning you up. We out of here. And back then, that was one of those things that you had to do to really get your name known. Like niggas don't want to see you doing 3, 4 fucking rounds. Like back then, you had to be that nice to clean a nigga 1 round. Like I said, people careers was getting done off of one battle. Like you do one move, you can't even come back. It's over. Oh, that crowd going crazy is over. So, like I said, when I got, when I took Brandon and Blackie, they they got to it, and like I said, like they just got legendary with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like certain people couldn't catch on faster than others, pretty much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So where were you when BSV was being formed?
Oh, the name I gave that?
Oh, you gave them that name too?
Oh, all right. Shout out to
I'm
me.
just saying we go run down this Bed-Stuy history and how it's going. So
Yeah,
with you giving
why
them the
not?
name, so that means that you was pretty much there. Cause like I said, I'm just helping the people understand like how this whole thing, as far as what people knew before, in a way, a lot of people didn't know who y'all are unless they were from y'all time. And as we're gonna get further in this interview, as you explained, like a lot of people from BSV, when they were formed,
Mhm,
not everybody, just certain
mhm,
individuals, according to
mhm,
you, did their best to keep you in the shadows. So my thing is to really highlight how much of an impact you play in when this new generation that came from up under your wings, whether you want to look at them like, yo, that was my peer or that was my partner, that's my
mhm,
friend, I get
mhm.
it. At the same time, it's like this was a new generation that was being formed and
Right,
they would take on a game in a very powerful way. That
right.
necessarily, for a lot of people that ran into BSV, a lot of the elders wasn't there.
Yeah, but you know the funny thing about that though, bro, like that's just like you being around Jordan and Pippen and your team hot. And you know what I'm saying? You got other players that was around that seen it and been around and they got the feeling but never got their feet wet. So it's like that you didn't already put, like you said, you already put these platforms for them already. So it's like you step back and you give everybody, that's like how they say pass the torch, but
Right.
it's just that when they pass the torch they just don't got the juice like when you was out there in the field. That's all. Like a lot of people, so that's just like if you give up a BSV name and you had some heavy hitters in there, and then it's like you don't have them in there no more, you just got some niggas coming on the back end, it ain't gonna be strong as the heavy hitters that was first in the game. So you just pretty much just carrying the name off the niggas that you was pretty much rolling with in the beginning. So that's basically how this dance lane is.
Mm.
So if you was around the Blackie, Brandinos, the Skis, the even just seeing Prince and other people in the presence to make yourself to feel like you hot, but you really, really didn't put the time and the burn in, it's like it's fraud. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what a lot of narrative be, but it's like, of course they're not gonna put me in it, but at the same time, my name is household name and everything of that. You know what I'm saying? So either way, like I said, even if you look at it, bro, from the time that you knew me from the time, is going on now, my name always be thrown in the mix. Even when they say they don't mention me in interviews, my name always gonna pop up. It's just that my face is here now. So, but yeah, bro, like it ain't gonna stick like that. Like, when you know too much and you're not putting narratives and stuff like that together. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
yeah, like, a lot of cats just wasn't like, just like I said, just because you saw a person doesn't mean that you was in the battlegrounds or battlefields. Like, no, you know, like I said, the battles, Prince, and like I said, the Darrells and tours, the skis, like I said, Milton, Ilk Icky, like I'm naming the whole like Bed-Stuy to Crown Heights, like I said, the tools, all of these guys, like all of that is different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are a lot of guys you see from different type of styles. So it's like, it's crazy to be, not in the picture when you bring all these guys around for y'all to see these guys, and they can't even give a story of a big scene or good scenery of battles. So, but it's cool though. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's, yeah.
So when BSV was being formed, like what was y'all take on that? Like, and how did you come up with the name for them?
Well, best our veterans, it just with the BSV situation, that was something that I when you say with Bookworm, I'm gonna mention him. Why I mentioned Bookworm is
Yeah,
just
big ups
that,
to
like with the
Bookworm.
Icky, with the Icky and Bookworm, because he was inspired by Icky as well too. What I'm saying is that we're gonna get to the BSV thing, but at that time, like a lot of my guys was getting like incarcerated stuff like that. So that's how being Icky kind of started. Like we was already, like I said, in the mix of like dancing around. Like I told you, he brought me out to a couple Flatbush parties. He was one of the dudes that put me out there with the Flatbush situation. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Yeah, I went to 3 parties out there with him. And like I said, we clubbed out a couple joints, but at that time, what made Bookworm, like I said, he used to go to 258. And the reason I mention him because he was a big inspired, like to bring him to be a dancer where he is because of the battle with me and Icky did when we battled. It was my man Fat Ant and Book, and it was me and Icky.
mm,
And yeah, at that time, like I said, I felt like at that time, like, and we had our prom, I'm at my prom. Icky still, Icky crazy. That's at that now. At that time, Icky going crazy at that time. We ain't gonna see all that. "Ooh, my son going crazy. Back waves, crazy. For like you said, he's animated, crazy. Now he's spooky. He's a boogeyman now. He's a boogeyman. So, like I
mm,
said, we running around. That's the Wallaby era now. We went Wallabies because Wallaby had a summer too. We going
yeah.
around with Wallabies on, all the Sned and third. That's when he had the skinny braids. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's when he hit the fucking that's when he hit the Rooper on Book. But this one I'm saying, Book ain't never see that shit the way it was looking.
Mm,
So when he saw that, yeah, it was so crazy. Like the Rooper was a major thing to be on too, besides the prong and all that other stuff too. But that Rooper, how the way he bust that night, it it was crazy. So that's how I kind of already knew that he was ready. You know what I'm saying? Like he really was like, yeah, that like, and so that's what brought Bookworm out. Like you feel what I'm saying? Cause Bookworm, he ain't not a, he was on this, and I remember when he told me he wanted to learn how to dance. That's when I got, into my situation. But yeah, so like I said, at that time, the BSV situation came about because of the Crown Heights, and we was going back and forth because at that time Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy, like Prince and all of us started to kind of come together type situation. That's when the Bingy and all that situation was going over there in the bush.
mm,
So that's when we was trying to unite to go over there to battle Flatbush versus, you know what I'm saying, Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights type shit.
yeah.
So that's when it was like the be best our veterans and all that stuff started to come in. But it ain't really stick like that until later on, which the Flex in Brooklyn and all that situation, which, whenever you want to talk about that. So that's when that came about later. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? As in that. But like
Did
I
you ever
said,
get
like
to
best
participate on Flex in Brooklyn?
who me? No,
Yeah.
nah, nah, I didn't. I came, I was locked for two. I got, like I said, like, before that, like I said, I did my rounds. I went crazy in the hood, you know what I'm saying? I had my name known in the hood, stuff like that. Like I said, a couple dudes, you know, they was outside, but like I said, that's when Ski Bash, he went over there back to the Heights. My son Blackie, he just came home because Blackie, he was like, see, the, at that time when Aku was outside for the time he was out, my son Blackie, he was locked up for a year.
Mm,
So, people that really knew like was me, Gordon, Brandino, like I said, a couple dudes from Albany, up and down Fulton Street, couple people from the style as in Pova and Albert. Like Pova and Albert, those was more of our cool, students, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, when I was bringing Brandon and Black and all these guys through, they changed shit down. You know what I'm saying? Word. So those are guys, and then on top of that, like my man Blackie and them, how I started to know people on that side over there, as in Stuyvesant and Gateside and stuff like that. 324, I started to go up there. You know what I mean? Because back then it was going up to, high schools and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I started to pull up the 324, started to put niggas on the, on the hit list. Word, we waiting at the gate for them to come out. Word. I'm with my freestyle bag. I'm sitting at word, like word, sitting there waiting for niggas. Like I said, and then while you on that side, that's what I'm saying. Anything once you get to Stuyvesant, you gonna hear Rique, the twins. You're gonna hear certain people talk about certain individuals. Once you hit certain sides, it's like, oh, you think you nice? I go get Rique, or I get this person, I get that person. So it's like, like you ain't safe nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? It's definitely like, it's definitely a death zone. So like I said, once I started getting my name up Stuyvesant, I started to get my name up, started fucking with Blackie and Brandino and all of them. Smurfville, all through there, Fulton Projects, all through there. That's how I get my name through. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, my son Lou, he from Fulton Projects. You know what I'm saying? He going crazy. And all of them, like I said, that's how they all know Icky. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, that's how it's connected. Fulton Projects, and then you got
Mm.
Albany right here. So it's like, everybody is like family. You know what I'm saying? So everybody know everybody that way. But it still was territory and turf. Gang affiliation thing was going on heavy. So you definitely had to watch yourself, in any means. But, it still was a good impact in certain degree. Anything past Franklin, red zone. So yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people too, like they couldn't really spread their wings because of those situations as well. So yeah.
Okay, so now, um, with the whole Flex in Brooklyn era going on now, because a lot of your peers transitioned from just doing block parties, school parties. Flex in Brooklyn became a thing, big up Siraki and Sandra. And a lot of your peers would necessarily convert to that platform to establish their names even more. So, where were you at this time now necessarily when your peers necessarily start converting to that Flex in Brooklyn stage?
But the lab was when the flex in Brooklyn was going on, the lab was really jinking too though.
Okay.
The lab was like a secondary like flex in Brooklyn, you know. So even with the flex in Brooklyn had their thing going on, the lab, like that's in the heart of the style. That's right there on Tompkins and Fulton. So it's like a lot of that was going on too. But at that time I just came home. Like, I just came home from, 2.5, you know what I'm saying? And we go back to, like I said, people that knew me or whatever. It was very kind of strict for me in the beginning. So my son Damien or whatever the case may be, Ski cousin, shout out to, Damien again. He used to have the flex tapes. Like he used to
Mm.
like record them shit say a week. So he already knew how much, he knew how tuned I was on to the dancing. So, like I said, him and Tyson, they always used to tell me about it. I said, yo, we need to go up on flex. Da, 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 da. I'm like, man, I'm like, what is flex? So, I mean, he like, nah, that's they used to call it B-Cat back then.
Yeah,
They
that was the
wasn't calling it
station it
flex.
was on.
That's what they was calling. It wasn't even calling it flex. It was just like, yo, B-Cat downtown Brooklyn. So I'm like, what? I was like, what they got going on? They was like, yo, all the dancers. So now he like, yo, ski daughter. I'm like,
All
word.
the
They said, I
games.
said, all of them. Word. He said, all the dancers. So that kind of, I'm coming home. I ain't even thinking about no dancing no more. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I ain't even think about this shit. So this nigga gave me like three cassette joints. So, mind you, I was kind of on strict probation, on parole. I couldn't do nothing. So, I'm just sitting in that motherfucker. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the shit. So then, boom, now I see Prince pop up there. I'm like, oh, like when I see them, that shit brought me back to the 90s. Mind you, this 2001. I just came home. So that shit brought me back 3 years. I'm like, oh. So what I see, the burger on, all that. I'm like, oh, these niggas
Yeah, I used
still
to
wearing it, da da da
heavy
work. So
rotation.
yeah, that shit gave me goose. I'm like, come on, so that like Coogee sweater. Come on, niggas don't know nothing about that. So boom, hype. I'm like, oh shit, niggas wearing the burger. So boom, I see Ski up there. Oh, so I'm hype, extra hype. So I'm like, yo, so now I'm seeing niggas and shit like that. So I'm seeing niggas from the hood. And then after a while, like, I started seeing other dance groups and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, they taking this to a dip. So now this is when the four corners is hitting with the knees. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
The volume was heavy. With everybody, you see it that I can't stand that shit. But you see 50 million niggas doing this volume shit. Like, but it was hot. Yo, when I came home, that was it. That was it. The volume was big up was crazy though. Like right, put it like this. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Yeah,
I
Styles,
saw
the
the
Styles had increased. Wow, crazy.
within the 2 years I came home, like the 2 years I was gone, I came home. I ain't even gonna front. I saw the flex tapes, but shout out the book. Like you remember I told you that me and it washed him and Fat Anna in Albany Projects.
Right.
Washed, finished them. Book ain't had no rhythm. What? Tell me now, mind you, Book with Blackie, Brandino, all of them. You know what I'm saying? So tell me why, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming home from parole. So I only had like an hour to get home. So I'm trying to get around the niggas and shit like that. So I pull up. So I see Fat Ant and I see Book in front of the building. This is on Decatur and Stuyvesant. So boom, they see me. Book, like how the way Book looked at me, like, yeah, nigga, like, look at my shit now. So he like, yo, Mike, what's good? Word of mother. That nigga like, yo, Mike, what's good? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm asking niggas. So, I'm still on my shit. I'm like, yo, like, what's up with niggas? Now, mind you, I'm calling in, checking in on niggas and shit like that. Blackie got shot and all that. You know what I'm saying? At the
Mm.
time I got locked up, Blackie got shot. You know what I'm saying? My other man, he dipped off, shit like that. So, my team was getting kind of fucked up. But, after that, he got better. But make a long story short, yeah, man. Fucking like I said, bro, like when Bookworm took me upstairs in the crib, that's when Blackie, you know what I'm saying, he had the DJ set or whatever the case may be. He wasn't around. So Bookworm,
Yeah, Blackie DJ set vicious. Big
right.
Blackie and his
But
DJ set, cause boy.
but but
Woo!
but but like I said, I don't know what they couldn't wait to see me, bro, because the way they showed me they style when I came, son, the way Bookworm body, that's why they call him Bookworm. Yeah. But anyway, but like I said, when I came up in the crib and how I saw like they was trash. When I saw they style, my dude, I'm like,
After you
nah.
came home.
After I came home, like these is the niggas like they looked it up to me, like, yo, you crazy. So when I saw they style, they made me son, I looked it bad.
Ugh.
Bookworm body move. So now my thing was like when I saw that, I'm like, imagine how Black and Brandino style is. Son, like all together, put it like this. When I saw their style, I'm like, imagine how everybody's style is. Everybody that I battled, everybody, like, at that time, like, Tom, that style, it was
Tell
it
you,
was a real
Styles
major.
done
Yeah,
increased.
the style super increased. Like I had to get back in class, nigga. Like I had to skip, my nigga, like I had to get back in class, bro. Like, son, they left me on a retarded bus. Like it was either get in or stay on the side, little nigga. Like I was in that position. I had to come back up the ladder, like it was one of those, like, cause like everybody just got their style up. So like when I saw him in Black Brandino bus, it was like, yo, like, nah, son. So I stayed in the crib for like 4 months. I was in the crib for like 4 months, son. It took me 4 months. I ain't had, you diesel, coming home from 2.5 years, nigga, eating stocky. These niggas all slinky, beef patty in a cocoa bread. They good, nigga. I'm gonna need more than that, bro. You know what I'm saying? These niggas, they live wires, Duke. So I had to slim up all that, like to get loose, like So that was like my big, and then plus on top of it with the flex tapes. So I'm seeing with Ski Prince going crazy with the get low body folk. I'm like, oh, like nah, man, like nah, these niggas. It's like it's a headache. It's like nah, I gotta get back in. I gotta get back in. I had to get back in. It was even what I look like sitting there as a standby. These niggas always standbys. I'm a standby now. Nah, I
So the
can't do it.
way the way big ups to Dennis from Suspects, because again, he was a
Him
part of
too.
that. He was a part of that whole, Genesis with a lot of y'all just in the Flatbush side.
I saw
He
him
said it,
bust.
and he would pretty much say like by the time Flex in Brooklyn came, it was like Flex in Brooklyn turned into like the WWF at that time, and it was like to him from what he was saying, he's like, "Yo, listen, if you didn't go on WWF to like increase your stardom with the skill that you had, it was kind of like hard because a lot of people is like." Again, based on the whole gang culture and a lot of stuff necessarily stopping people from making moves that they would want to make, it was like it would seem like Flex in Brooklyn was the terrain